We set up our warehouse, and the people in our parts department, they're right next to the warehouse door. So if they need to look at something, pull something off the shelf, if a customer needs additional pictures of it, it's right there. We've really only hit the tip of the iceberg as far as everything that we purchase. We're adding 20 to 30 items a day, but there's another 2,000 to 3,000 items that we need to add. We'd like people to understand that we're not just a parts guy answering a phone, entering a part number, that we really know the cars, that we can help, that you're not just buying the part from us, you're buying the assistance. You're getting the knowledge and the help of what part's the right part for your car, how to put it on, where it goes, a little bit more than just here's your part, thank you kind of thing.
The Spec-5 World Tour heads to the beach for round number 9, Long Beach, California, for the Mazda MX-5 Championship. Beautiful, beautiful weather, beautiful place with a great view of the fountain there. And you're going to watch all the action live here on HJBC with myself, David Haynes, Devin Peters, and Michael Derby with me. Devin, what an interesting track. Very, very well known, a lot of history, but also super challenging. Nowhere to run or hide from your mistakes.
Yeah, you thought the mountain was tough. Wait till you see the Long Beach shoreline drive. Those straight up and down walls are punishing here, just like they are in Australia.
In my mind, something a little bit of a Baku about this place, because you do have a very, very long pit straight, but it is super tight, twisty, almost single line most of the rest of the way around. Turn 1 and the hairpin are always dangerous, dangerous pinch points, whatever cars you're racing here, whether it's prototypes, that open wheel series that apparently we can't talk about on iRacing anymore, or even in these MX-5s, which we know race super, super close. They have done all season. It's been a great, great championship to this point. Can they all keep it clean, keep it together at Long Beach? We're not far from finding out, but we've got to thank our friends at RC Sales Porsche Parts for sponsoring the series and the broadcast. Go to rcsales.com for all that is Porsche. RC has thousands of parts available for virtually any Porsche model. Providing high quality service with a personal approach and with worldwide shipping available, you won't need to go anywhere else. Visit rcsales.com today. Devin, it's not a massive lap around here. It is a rather short and constrained street circuit, but they are about to go qualifying, and that will set the grid, which I suspect will be as important as ever at this track.
I have a feeling that we're going to see an interesting thing happen today. There's been this Mr. Clean trophy running in the background all season long, and I have a feeling that anyone who manages to finish with 0 instant points today is probably going to finish really close to the front. We might even have the leader of the Mr. Clean Championship, Lee Martin, leading this race by the end of the thing, if he can go clean like he has for the last 4 races.
They're going to make him the governor of California if he can pull that off. You can see how close the walls are around here. Drivers starting those qualifying laps, and it is a long, long run. You're staring at the braking zone for turn 1 thinking, how brave am I on the first of 4 laps? And the answer is quite brave. If you're Curtis Jones, who's getting right into it, it's very hot on track. So we've kind of been seeing the fastest lap time come out of lap 2, lap 3 in these runs. It definitely could trend towards lap 2 potentially this time.
Yeah, 75 degrees in the air and 121 on that surface out there today. So we won't be surprised to see guys squirming around on track, because you cook an egg out there.
Yep, you could fry it up good and proper. Going from one side of the track across the crest back to braking in the next, and you get onto the second straight of the racetrack. Definitely you can pass someone here if you get a good run onto this straight. You head underneath some of the hotels and resorts and all of that. And again, looking to pick your braking zone into this final section of corners that makes up the end of the lap. deceptively tricky 90-degree right-hander where you can get the curb wrong and end up in the outside wall, and then you're just trying to carry your speed, stick to the inside around the left-hander that sets you up for the tightest corner on the racetrack, the final hairpin, and the drive off of there also very critical onto the long front straight.
As Hansen crosses the line here, he puts together a pretty good time, but our open class leader right now, Andrew Gilliland, has something to say about it. Puts a 34.6 down to put himself on the pole temporarily.
Yep, and the drivers, most of them now onto their second lap, so we'll see what improvement comes there. But out of the first laps, out of the first runs, Joshua Soto to the top from Ronnie Coates and Ken Copeland. Here is Ronnie Coates in second. Here's Ken Copeland in third. They're in pretty similar parts of the track, which is the fountain. Absolutely picturesque, and in fact, I dare say that the apex of that corner is the only apex that isn't right on a concrete wall. You get just a little bit of lovely space there alongside the Dolphin Fountain.
Yeah, just a little nibble of foliage and you know you've done it right. Ken Copeland, of course, responsible for this week's shenanigans. He's picked this track and said in the notes, I felt like the league didn't have enough drama. He must not have seen the 4,000ths of a second finish last week.
Made that decision a little before last week's super exciting finish at Interlagos. About to see the second laps come in, and that's where a lot of the speed was found at Interlagos, for example. We saw some drives, in fact, even sort of taking lap 3 as a cool-down lap before then looking to attack on lap 4 again. So there ought to be plenty of improvement, both as the tyres get into their window, but also the drivers say, all right, how about 1 inch closer to the wall at every corner, which all adds up around the lap for a bit of time. Here they come, and we're going to see the timing column begin to update. Curtis Jones will go to the top now. Not confident he'll stay there. He's got 0.2 of a second under his belt at the moment, but he looks like he will stay there with a lot of these second attempts coming in.
Yeah, definitely some faster times out there in practice, but you got to wonder how much of that was impacted by the draft. But a 34.0, definitely good for the lead right now. And Chris Bernemer manages to show himself up into second place.
He does. 200ths away from the pole at the moment. We were briefly looking at Jose Gonzalez, one of the open class drivers, currently in 4th outright. Great qualifying performance from him. Again, this is one of those tracks I feel that if it fits your driving style, if you're well practiced and confident here, you really, really can elevate yourself more than at a traditional circuit.
Yeah, and the Jose Gonzalez's of the world in that open class are going to need something. Those blue tag drivers are going to be looking for the chance to make some points on Tom Aton with the sort of lead that he's managed to build up this season. He's downright dominating the open class right now.
Gino Pellicci with the pole at the moment works his way through the fountain section and then around some parking structures and then away from the port of Long Beach, which, if you believe their advertising here, is the green port of the future or something like that. Simply fascinating stuff. The racing is a little more my bag. Pellicci continually looking to still improve.
And he's pushing it through here. Gets it real close to the wall and cuts as much of that inside curb as he can. I'm not sure there's a limit to it other than that concrete wall that he brushed with his right-hand mirror.
The concrete absolutely is a limit, and brushing the wall would be a 0x that would invalidate a qualifying lap as well, so you do have to stay off them best you can. He's got a lot of curb there as well. He was personal best sectors 1 and 2, but in the end of the lap, is it all going to come together? Looks like he got a very wide entry, gripped it up well for the hairpin, which would let him get to the throttle early. Important because with the new race gearbox in these cars, first gear's pretty tall. You need to get that momentum running early to the line, Joshua Soto has pipped him for the top of the board. Pollicci finds some improvement on that lap, but not enough to wrestle pole back away off Joshua Soto, and they'll all go into their fourth and final run. And for Pollicci, you can tell how committed he's thrown it into turn one, but he's got a bit of a wobble on there, and it's starting to look a little rotating around the nose, a little loose at the rear. A lot of steering corrections as he goes.
Yeah, loose is fast, but drift is slow. And you got to really manage the line between those two things.
No improvement for him in the sectors so far. Joshua Soto with a tiny bit of improvement. Chris Brunema's improving all the way around his lap, 3/4 of the way around and finding time. And again, no fear with the curbs in the final sector for Brunema. No fear with the wall, but I suspect he's tagged that, and that might be it. Oh my goodness, do you ever see a driver as committed as that?
Yeah, that was really impressive. He got on those sausage curbs and just got on the wrong side of them, and it's really easy to do, but you send that rear end chasing around into the outside wall and done. Yeah,
the lap time was not counted for Chris Brunema, and he was on an improvement, but he was so committed. Here's Michael Coates, raced up front last week at Interlagos, one of the drivers we always don't say a lot about in the first half of the race and then keep talking about in the second half. He really just hangs on, gets to the pit phase, tries to come out in a good position, and then race and take the gloves off from there. And as far as qualifying goes for him, this lap's looking like an improvement. Could run onto the straight, even if there might have been a little space left in that corner. So Coates could still improve from 10th. Most drivers have completed their 4 laps to this point. The car's still out there with laps to burn. Joshua Soto, Michael Coates, Ray Lombardi, and Odyssey Adams Jr. I think is about to use up his final lap. So Michael Coates has a chance, if the track improves late, to do something interesting. But the way the weather is going and the time of day, I think the circuit is only getting hotter, toastier, and therefore slicker as we go on. Michael Coates, this is his 3rd of the 4 laps. We'll see what it does for him.
Yeah, the wind is moving around a bit. We are seeing it gusting from down at 10 miles an hour all the way up to 15 right now, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough to make a difference here. We'll have to see what it bears out, though.
So Michael Coates went to 7th, and he's got one more lap in the last 4 minutes of this qualifying session. Turn 1, nice ride of the curb, not out of control, and you can see the line of rubber around the track, single line through the fountain section, unless you're brave, stupid, or some combination thereof. And he's following that line through these segments so far. In a second, I'll see the next sector and see that Michael Coates not tracking for any improvement on this lap so far, but he might have in his mind, I definitely left something on the table at the hairpin last time, and seen others think similarly, not always to great results.
Yeah, he's one of very few out on the tracks. The only other one's Odyssey Adams. He's coming around the hairpin right now. Doesn't look like he's on much of a flyer, but a clean lap out here counts for something.
I think he's used all of his laps and he's going to practice his pit entry, which is a weird little one here, almost just a hole in the wall on the inside of the final corner. This is the last lap then for Michael Coates. He actually found a little bit of time in the middle part of the lap, but he would have been about a 10th down, picked up a bit of time, picks up a little more time. But overall, he's a 10th short of what his last lap was, and he will remain in 7th. There's no one, capable of usurping him from that position, and pretty short little lap around here sees almost everyone using up their laps. I think Coates might try to get around and also practice that pit entry. We've seen a lot more focus from the drivers on that aspect of the racing in the last couple of rounds, I think since Bathurst especially.
Yeah, pit strategy's been critical on a few occasions, not just at the front of the field either. I want to say that we saw someone take the pit entry to secure a position at the end of the Bathurst race there. But as the drivers bring it in here, we'll flip things to an onboard and start thinking about this big long race. Ronnie Coates going to be starting 5th, hoping to hold on to that Pro Class lead in those red-colored cars. And Tom Athon going to be hoping to hold on to the lead in Open Class, but kind of a weak qualifying session for Tom, it must be said, down in 17th place.
Just one of those tracks, if you click with it, you can run right up against the wall everywhere. But if you're not confident with it, if you're not practiced with it, if it doesn't feel familiar or comfortable to you, then you've got to give an extra, foot to every wall. And if you give yourself a 1 foot cushion to every single wall around here, it's going to cost you a 10th through every corner. It's going to cost you a whole second around the lap. And where's that going to put you? Well, not inside of the top 15 positions as it would transpire after that qualifying session. Relatively close within the top half of the field, super close from 3rd through to 8th, where 0.2 of a second would cover them all off. So that all points towards a pretty exciting race shortly as well.
Yeah, worth mentioning that there's a couple drivers who didn't set times today. One in particular, Camden Hibbett, will be making his start from the pit lane after some incidents at Bathurst accumulated a few extra penalty points. So a young driver having some fun on the simulator, and it's going to cost him a start. But honestly, with the way 2 cars turn into one around that fountain, I'm not sure that it's a bad thing to be avoiding the carnage.
You know that California changed the color of their street signs between when iRacing scanned this circuit and released it. I don't know if they went from blue to green or green to blue, but all these nice little signs, Shoreline Drive, all the other famous names, different when iRacing originally scanned this circuit to how they look now. There is so much Long Beach trivia. There's been history of racing here since 1975. Let's look at the grid for Spec-5 World Tour Round 9. Joshua Soto with the pole position from Eugenio Pellicci. Then Curtis Jones, Chris Brunema, Ronnie Coates, Trevor Roy, Michael Coates, and Jose Gonzalez, the open class driver there, denoted by the blue stripe underneath the number and the O in the name, in 8th. So good qualifying from him. Rui Coimbra and James Hansen complete the top 10. Then we find Ken Copeland, Andrew Gilliland, the second open class driver. Brian Zabelski, Paulo Coimbra, third open class driver. Then the grid completed out by Ray Lombardi, Sean Hayes, Tom Athon, Charles Vaccaro, Pierre Robitaille, Odyssey Adams Jr., Andy Cossack, Lee Martin, Geordie Fike, and Camden Hibbett.
And as we're going through the grid, of course, you'll have noticed that there's a few different colors of numbers on the grid. There's the red and blue for the pro and open class leaders in the points, but then there's also some gold, silver, and bronze numbers on the grid, and to secure those numbers, well, you have to go and support the league, and so we owe a little shout out to those guys that are doing a little bit extra, making sure that this wonderful little presentation can continue for you folks. I also need to just take a moment, take a look at that car from Josh Soto. That is a pretty looking MX-5, and if you get a shot on the hood, I really like Soto Racing Operations. That's right, the SRO is on the pole position today.
No complaining about Bop from this SRO, though. It's all equal cars and it's all equal setup as well. We must point out, my goodness, how big is that beer can, Devon? That thing's massive. Not something that the drivers can concern themselves with just yet. What they will concern themselves with is the 45-minute race ahead of them, where they will need to stop at some point for fuel. Surely on a street track, one of those places you could save a lot of fuel and still keep your pace up, still keep your track position, but also your focus for 3/4 of an hour is going to be keeping your car with the nose in front of the tail and on the pavement and not in the wall. So relatively short formation lap here. That safety car whips around the hairpin, maybe even faster than the racers can. It looks for the pit entry, and already a bit of a checkup in the hairpin. We'll get ourselves an extra formation lap theoretically here Barney's got the green up, but I don't think he drops it. So they've got to wait for the safety car to work its way back through the pit lane, presumably, and give us that extra formation lap.
Yeah, there was some talk about this during the driver's briefing. It sounded like the admin wanted to make sure that there was a clean start, and it is really difficult to get these cars lined up, especially with the speed that this pace car moves at around here. So it sounds like we'll be doing an extra pace lap, and we'll see. We'll see that Porsche come flying right by again as they get these cars squared up and ready to go.
I reckon there's probably a couple Porsches on the streets of Long Beach. Probably a couple more cabrios as well. They are trying to sort themselves out a little bit too wide through the fountain section as well. Probably the only time you'll safely do that.
A little drama's pointed out here too from the field. Folks curious about this new procedure, instituted, of course, in response to the dramas we saw last week, where some of the drivers didn't get the message that they had accrued some penalty points. It started anyways from the field.
Meanwhile, I've taken a look. There is a Porsche of Long Beach. Please hurry up and load the used vehicle inventory. This website's not quite as rapid as I'm sure the cars are.
It's certainly not as fast as AussieSalesandSports.com would be if you're looking for parts.
That's right. It's just KNs, Macans. I imagine that's... Okay, you got anything? Oh, we got a 2020 Porsche Taycan 4S listed for $91,000. Got a 2023 Porsche Taycan GTS. I've sat in one of them. I like the GTS. I like the very, very touring focused, all of things designed for range and comfort. But we are really not far away from getting racing, and that'll be the only Porsche left.
Let's say quick laps around here, even with the pace car. So we'll see them get it squared up after the hairpin here. And Josh Soto's going to take the grid this time with a whole field behind him, hopefully.
He will, packing up too wide, but always a massive choke point at the hairpin. Green flag waves now. We get racing. And then the question is, how late do you brake? In towards turn number one, looking for 3 wide potentially. Curtis Jones backs out of it. A little bit of a bump draft going on to try to help Joshua Soto around. Try to help Polici around the outside, but it's not going to work. He backs out. That pole position from Joshua Soto converts into the race lead, heading into the fountain section. Middle of the field, they're still 2 wide, maybe 3 wide, and we get one turned around. Sean Hayes into the barrier, and he will not be happy with that. He'll drop all the way to the back. Other than that, clean so far, but he just got tagged. Someone tagged Tom Athon, and then Tom Athon tagged him, and it all starts there.
Yeah, it's tough. Tom Athon and Ray Lombardi are kind of going too wide on the inside, and then Sean kind of gets hung up on the outside and ends up getting tagged on the pit maneuver bumper and facing the wrong way.
So not a whole lot changes other than that inside of the opening lap. Your top 4 still as they started. Joshua Soto leading Eugenio Polici. Teammates of Curtis Jones and Chris Brunham are reunited in 3rd and 4th. Memories of Daytona a couple months ago off the back straight. Any moves looking to be made there. The field relatively strung out, but I think the pit straight and the slipstream these cars generate will start to pack them back up again. Big checkup, almost coming to a complete standing stop into the hairpin. We did, and got a little bit of contact there as well. Who's going to gain out of that? I think Trevor Roy got a really great jump. He's looking to get 1 position. He's ahead of Ronnie Coates now. And he's ahead of Michael Coates too. So Trevor Roy gains out of that.
Ken Copeland's going to make a move up the inside here of Jose Gonzalez in the Coca-Cola car. See him a little deeper in the field there. Jose gets a push from James Hansen behind, who decides he doesn't want anything to do with that battle. And now Copeland goes up the inside and tags the tire barrier. He's going to have to get it going again. And he does enough to clear off Jose Gonzalez. Nice move.
Yeah, sizable hit on the outside wall of turn number 1, though, as he tried to make that move. Obviously, shallow entry Super, super tough. But now, he's gone and tagged the wall again later on in the lap, and that's going to be more damage. That's going to be positions lost, and just so aggressive so early on a track that could fry an egg. The tires aren't there yet, not gripping, and he comes back across in front of Tom Eton as well.
Yeah, that's tough for him. Meanwhile,
dramas for the driver who was in 5th position, Michael Coates. On the tow hook, I think he's going all the way to the back of the field. Is it a technical problem, or did he also have a hit with the wall?
I'm looking back through the cameras, and it looks to me like it's a technical problem. He's on the track one moment, he disappears the next. So unless we see him suddenly reconnect, I have a feeling that we're going to see a no-show.
6, 7 cars, nose to tail, bumper to bumper, fender bender in the final corner. Again, the checkup effect is real in these cars on their way into the hairpin, and they're going to sell a couple front clips and a couple rear bumpers after this one. It all happens around about Andrew Gilliland. Not any single driver's fault, of course, just a characteristic of this track, the way they slow up to walking pace.
Yeah, Paulo Coimbra's lost his front clip, and he's going to regret that. It's going to cost him every time they go down Shoreline Drive. But it gives me a bit of a throwback to when we were at Monza Combined, when they were headed into the first chicane there. It checked up a bit like that earlier this season.
Monza GP, Monza Combined would have been a whole different fun barrel of monkeys.
There you go. Got the wrong one.
Who's got the Christmas wrapping livery? Because I think they've just gone into the wall as well, and I thought your drivers would sort of start slow, warm up on this one, but a few drivers really just getting into the heat of action, getting wide wrong side of the camber there, and that's what does it. It just doesn't get to the apex, and the crown of the road seems to work against you if you're wide.
Yeah, that's Pierre Robitaille, and from Club Canada, not used to these warm temperatures, it must be said. And he actually comes out of that, and he's driving through a melee. What's going on here? Sean Hayes facing the wrong way, and it looks like Sean Hayes was collected as part of an incident involving Charles Vaccaro.
Oh yeah, they're already two drivers around there and trying to get out of the way, trying to drive off the line, but tag someone else. It starts there with Vaccaro. It then rolls backwards onto the racing line, then drives forward and spins someone else around. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we'll let the stewards handle that one, but it seems like an analysis to me. Sure enough, though, this track has proven itself to be a very flat mountain. It's a survival course, not a racing course sometimes. And what's the saying? To finish first you must finish.
Let's see if that car's going to turn right. Let's see if this car's going to make it turn right. Okay. And get it towards pit entry. Still too early for the fuel window. Jose Gonzalez goes down the escape road, and that's the driver who I'm pretty sure would have been leading the open class. And, this is how he ends up using...
Big drift.
Yeah, as much of the track as he can to try to get that turned around. Did seem to keep it off the wall, though, which I think is going to be absolutely critical. Drops him back to 17th outright, now the leader of the open class. He always seems to sneak up there. Good old Tom Athon from Andrew Gilliland, second. Paulo Coimbra now running third in that class with no nose. How does he smell?
It's a great question, Haynes. But you bring up a good point. I mean, one lap time is not going to be the be-all, end-all here. It's really going to be about who can drive it cleanest for longest. We're also hearing from our radio chatter that Michael Coates is back in the race, or at least back in the server, but unfortunately for him, the game crashed. And so he has lost his position in this race and probably lost his chance of making any meaningful points.
You also saw Charles Vaccaro getting back out on circuit now, one lap down, unfortunately, though, and in a little bit of traffic, which is going to require him to be a little bit heads up, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult. And he's right back into the wall.
Once you get the toe out.
Yeah, Ronnie Coates. and Trevor Roy, who are running 4th and 5th. Joshua Soto maybe almost running away with the lead of this one. Obviously, street circuit not quite as slipstream heavy as some of the other tracks, though it's definitely still there. He's leading, almost pulling a second on Eugenio Pollicci, who's got Chris Brunema right behind. We ride on board with the 3rd place driver, and we've just seen Ronnie Coates and Trevor Roy 4th and 5th. So the top 5 are a little further spread than has been typical of this championship so far this season.
Josh Soto's a quality driver, and you give him a little bit of room, he's going to start breathing, getting calm, and he'll drive right away from you if you give him the chance. Oh, and sure enough, he goes and stuffs it in the wall as I'm talking about him.
Soto has a problem with the hairpins, going to lose about half a second, going to get a bad run onto the straight. Tom Athon, Brian Zabelski, and Ken Copeland have come together in the left-hander before the hairpin. So not even 10 minutes of racing, and we've had about an hour's worth of drama on the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, it looked to me like Ken Copeland's just kind of running his own line, minding his own business, and then Brian Zabelski gets loose, checks up, and Tom Athon comes through and just cleans up the both of them. That's 2 pins, corner pocket? I don't know. Let's mix our metaphors.
He's hit a 6, and he's something like that. I don't know. So this is our top 3. Really trying to mix those metaphors. Joshua Soto, just a little tag on the wall at low speed. Doesn't seem to have damaged his car in the hairpin, but it has brought Pollicci and Brunema back towards him. Trevor Roy losing time and places as well, and he's got big damage on his car. We'll be able to quickly get a look at that. It's that same corner again. He's not able to do it quite as elegantly as Jose Gonzalez was at that corner, and that's been a surprising trouble spot. We know the hairpin is a pinch point. We know turn 1 is the highest speed approach and one of the most committed corners, but drivers getting bit in unique places this time.
Yeah, it is really a committed corner, and the drivers are showing us just how committed it is. You kind of, if you turn in a meter too early, you're going to hit the curb and bounce wide, and if you turn in a meter too late, you're going to slide wide and bounce off the tire barrier.
Someone else has got a problem, and I think it's Odyssey Adams Jr. That car will not turn right, which is a challenge on a clockwise circuit. He's been into the wall, the corner beforehand. He's gotten to the next corner, and it just won't turn. The front left was already in a bad way. Now the nose is too. He's not far from pit entry, but the car won't turn right, and he might have problems at the hairpin. It just gets it around for poor Odyssey Adams Jr. And still, I suspect, too early for the fuel window is going to force another pit stop out of him later. He can't even turn into pit entry.
Oh, no. And that's such a tragedy. He was up 8 positions already at the start of that lap just from running clean, and then one little mistake and it all goes away from him. Ooh,
oh, man.
Well, the next person that we can celebrate for all their overtaking, or maybe curse for all their overtaking, is Jordy Fike. He's started 23rd, didn't set a qualifying time, and he's all the way up in 12th place. And he's got a little bit of drama ahead of him now as Charles Riccaro's given back a little bit of a slowdown by the looks of things. So we'll see if he's able to make his way past a few of these cars ahead.
Vaccaro, of course, a lap down of all of these drivers, and I think trying to get out of their way as well. Next driver to try to get past him does so, and then here comes Fike. So Zabelski gets past. Now Fike and Gonzalez will be next, and he's very, very kind to them, more kind than I suspect I would have been. I might have waited till after the hairpin in the same situation. They get through. Still a long time to go in this race, and it says more than 20 laps, because even these cars, probably about 400 horsepower short of a IMSA GTP, are getting around here in just over 90 seconds.
Man, Josh Soto's just jumped the curb into turn number 6 and really kind of floated it. It's been a moment there for him, but he's managed to keep it off the wall. But no one's safe from the dramas of the hot track out there. Eugenio Policci's going to have to defend here, and there's a little bit of contact there between him and Chris Brunema. Policci's run wide, and he touches the outside of the barrier. got a little bit of help too. I bet you there's going to be a little bit of unhappiness in those cockpits.
Question also maybe did he block, but what we're seeing is not just a slippery track, but it seems like off the normal racing line is not very grippy either. You see drivers get just a little bit wide, turn in from a little bit narrow or shallow, and find way less grip than they're expecting. So Joshua Soto's race lead goes out to 1.7 seconds off of that interesting little transpirance between Chris Brunema and Eugenio Polici, who's now going to be under yet more pressure. Ronnie Coates closing up on him after that. And of course, you shouldn't get too much damage from a little tap on the tires there, but you just never know, and you never want to take your chances. And towards turn one, Polici looks like he's going to hold on. Tom Athon, open class leader, goes to pit lane. Is this a unique strategy? No, it's going to be because the front's off. I'm thinking, is he going early in the fuel window because this is such a weird track as far as track position is concerned? But no. I suspect it might have been a meatball flag from the trackside workers that has necessitated that.
Yeah, and that's a shame for him because he's come in a lap earlier than we think they can make the fuel work from. So he's going to pay some pretty serious price for that mistake. But at the same time, it hasn't looked like many drivers are getting away unscathed today. Jose Gonzalez resumes the lead now of open class, and we'll see if he's able to stretch it at least another lap. And when I said Jose Gonzalez, I meant Andrew Gilliland, because of course Gilliland's up there, because Andrew Gilliland is leading the Mr. Clean points in the open class. So, like I said, Mr. Clean, he goes to the front.
And he's got such a beautiful smile. I've seen the bottles. Yeah, so we've mentioned it before, and it of course always bears repeating, the youngest driver in the field as well. And very, very young compared to you and I. Cute little drift out of the final hairpin for 11-year-old Andrew Gilliland. Bit of a rush on pit lane behind him though. Ray Lombardi and Ken Copeland, Brian Zabelski as well. Interesting. Now those don't look like cars that have been forced into pit lane by virtue of missing a lot of body panels. This looks potentially strategic.
I was going to say Ken Copeland's left front is looking a little suspect to me. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys all just have just enough damage to make it worth their while to go and pit, whether that's bent toe lengths or crunched up fenders that are costing them some time down the straight. Because we're seeing some panels pop back out as they're on the lane there, as well as some fresh tires going on. Cool tires might be worth their weight in gold at this point.
Lombardi is going to come out ahead of these drivers, and Zabelski, and a long stop for Ken Copeland. Quite a long stop for Ken Copeland. You can see Tom Athon's going to be approaching at speed, and he's definitely going to get around these guys, and he's going to get ahead of Lombardi and Zabelski as well. So he's sort of dodged a bullet with that damage, has Tom Athon.
On the one hand,
very much in play for the Open Class Championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do wonder, he's going to have to do some pretty serious fuel saving to make that work, because he's stopped, like I said, a lap earlier than we're expecting him to be able to. Either way.
So this lead is out to 7 seconds, and it's off the back of a very slow last lap from Chris Brunema, who's now back in a 4th place. Polici in 2nd is going to have to defend from Ronnie Coates in towards turn number 1. And Coates almost just about says, all right, I'm not going to get around the outside. Or if I do, I'm going to get around the outside into the wall. So he stays in 3rd. Chris Brunema closes up in 4th, but it's given a very, very big free kick. All of this to Joshua Soto, now leads by about 7.5 seconds. And I'm wondering, Devin, if we know what happened to Brunema.
Yeah, it was that 4th turn they just went through again, and last time by, Chris Brunema got that inside curb, got a little drift on. He kept it off the wall, but he didn't do it at the expense of anything but time, unfortunately for him. So that's cost him a bunch of seconds. He'll have to find his way back around Ronnie Coates and Eugenio Polici if he wants to have another go at Josh Soto, who seems to be utterly unshakable at this point.
He's about 1 length of back straight ahead of them as well, because just as Polici, Coates and Brunema turned on to this road, Joshua Soto was working his way off of the back straight and into the final complex of corners. I suspect in Joshua Soto's position, you want to run long. He's not catching any traffic just yet. Of course, traffic. A very common problem for the residents of Southern California, I suspect.
From what I hear, they do a pretty good job of keeping the roads clear while they're building the tracks. But yeah, I know what you mean. Ronnie Coates was feeling the heat of the traffic as Chris Bernemer gave him a little shove at the apex. And speaking of, Ronnie Coates dives up the inside. Really nice move. Barely a gap for him there into turn number 1. And he's going to take that position cleanly. But behind him, Ronnie Coates is going to get a little bit of help from Chris Bernemer going into turn number 1 and get punted around.
So it was Coates going very hot into the corner, Polici checking up and getting tagged from behind by Brunema, and we'll have a look at the three of them in towards turn number 1 this time. Coates pops out, looks to the inside. Off of that, Eugenio Polici breaks a little bit earlier, letting him through, looking at maybe cross back over under. And that speed at the apex sees Brunema just give him a tiny shot to the rear bumper, send him around, and he loses positions off of that as well. So clumsy once again between Brunema and Polici. And you would forgive Polici for being a little feisty about that one. In front of them, James Hansen and Rui Coimbra side by side. Looks like James Hansen's going to get ahead of one of the Coimbras, who has a little bit of a wiggle about it, maybe not pleased.
He's checking for damage. He took a turn in there into turn number 7 there. I'd call it the Pine Avenue turn. He's tagged the inside wall, and I think he was just making sure that the thing was still going to turn right.
Is he still checking?
Now we might just be seeing what it's going to do to him when he turns.
He could become a Ferrari race strategist if he's checking.
Checking.
Copy. We are checking. We are looking. Confirm plan A. Drivers might have had to have come into this race with a couple of plans in mind, though, and some of them have gone out the window for the likes of Tom Athon and other drivers who've had to come into pit lane early on to fix up the car and try to stay in this race. Ooh. Of the drivers who've pitted yet, Tom Athon is actually the leader there, so he might get away with the crash that he had.
Chris Bernemer's had a little scuff on the wall on the left-hand side as he was heading from turn 3 to 4 after the fountain there. Doesn't look like it's affected the car too badly, but something to keep an eye on. And he's closing ground on Ronnie Coates ahead here.
Neither of them are closing ground on Joshua Soto, though, who is 9 seconds ahead in the lead. Brunema pulls out, looking to get down the inside, and this is one of those circuits where if they're door-to-door with you and they've got the inside, you probably just let them have it most of the time. Any lap but the final lap.
Yeah, that's the truth, and kind of interesting to note how different the lines were there. I was worried that Brunema was going to be too far inside, but he actually really nailed that, and we see peeling off into the pit lane there. That was Rory Coimbra, apparently not satisfied with the amount of damage that he must have taken hitting that wall last time by.
We didn't get a look if the steering wheel was straight, but there's probably a few drivers driving around out there with, 10 degrees left hand down, right hand down, something like that. Thinking I can get this fixed at the next pit stop with a fast repair on offer. Great line from Coates. Meanwhile, Brunema was doing the gardening for them, trimming back the plants at the fountain.
Yeah. Looking through the field, it looks like most of our top 12, top 11 still hasn't pit just yet. So we're kind of in the middle of a really protracted pit cycle. I think the threat of damage is keeping a lot of drivers out a little bit longer than they might usually.
Right, you want to keep that get out of jail free card until you need it, which would be pitting late. Coimbra is back out. It's 12th. He's now the leading car to have stopped and taken about 16 seconds of fuel. That appears to be the trend.
I'm just checking in on the outside of the top 10 here. It looks like Andy Kosick and Charles Vaccaro. Oh no, Kosick's going to be trying to come around Vaccaro, who's a lap down, but also in the open class. Kosick, though, he's having a pretty quietly clean race. He's up 12 positions from where he started in 21st, and got to be feeling pretty good about that, all things considered, in this open class.
Some of that's going to shake out after the pit stops, and maybe he'll be door to door with Tom Athon for the closing run. We'll wait and see. Not many more drivers coming through pit lane this time, so it's everyone looking for the end of that window now. At this point, you think? Have we had James Hansen in many races so far this championship, Devin? Do you know? Just thinking that he's running in fourth. And sometimes you say a name and you realize, I'm not sure I've ever said that name before.
I do believe that this is James Hansen's first race. Third race of the season. He made the first round and he made the Nürburgring, where he actually scored pretty well, a 98-point finish there. So that put him in about third place. But hasn't been around for many races this season.
Three most famous racetracks in the world: Daytona, Nürburgring, Long Beach. Not quite sure that fits, but could have him, and running very, very well. Again, a track that will just reward keeping it clean in this way. He's up from 10th on the grid up into 4th at the moment, not far off this 2nd and 3rd place battle, and in fact lapping quicker than them last time. So really playing himself into podium contention.
Well, and he's one of those PSM Pacific SimSport cars, so he's rocking the same livery as Chris Bernemer up in 2nd place. So you know that the teammates have probably been practicing together.
Yeah, for sure. 13 laps still to go, 20 minutes still to go in this one, and about half the field have pitted, about half the field haven't. So as we get a couple more lap times out of some of those cars that have pitted, be interesting to see if any of them are sort of affecting an undercut. Tom Athon in the 135s, Ray Lombardi in the 135s. Sean Hayes pits, and in a second I'll see if Rui Coimbra is still going to contend for a top 5 as far as his undercut goes. So it's a 34-1. That's pretty quick from Coimbra. In fact, that'd make him the 2nd fastest car on track at the moment. He's got clean air, he's got a clean car, and pushing up against the wall in 1, in 2, good line through the fountain. So this is working out pretty well for Coimbra, I think, because, Brunema, Coates, and others aren't having the same speed and maybe battling each other a little bit.
If you can make the undercut work, there's probably something to it today with the track as hot as it is.
Suddenly I'm on Team Coimbra about this one, because that last lap from him, absolutely flying. He's personal best of the race, only a 10th away from being the fastest lap of the race. And the track isn't cooling down none. It is still toasty. I've got to find... I did see a measurement once. It was how hot of pavement is too hot to walk your dog. And I think we're past that. You're not walking your dog here until after sunset. Yeah,
absolutely. And you probably might want to put booties on him too. But we're following along here. We've just watched Camden Hibbett driving away a little bit from Jose Gonzalez. Hibbett, speaking of drivers that have made up a lot of ground, Hibbett starts from the pits 24th place all the way up to 7th. And sure enough, he will give a little bit of that back from the pit lane, but he's been showing some pretty solid pace himself. Really leaving no margin there through the fountain. It's nicely done. In the meantime, following along with Brunnemer. Brunnemer's going to get a great big blue flag from Sean Hayes ahead by the looks of things. Heck, that might even be a white flag.
For dog paws, according to 4paws.org.au, 125 Fahrenheit or so, and that's right where we are. Too hot for dog walking.
And here I was thinking in Canada, it's closer to 110. Must have some soft dog paws up here. Ooh, and we see Ronnie Coates diving into the pit lane that time by from 3rd place. Ronnie Coates, a significant player in our points championship, currently leading in the no drop count, but right there, second place, I want to say, in the 3 drop count.
So a curved pit lane means that driving through all the other pit boxes is the quickest way to get to yours. And he's looking for left side tires. Those look more like fans than pit crew there. They should either be fireproof or have some very, very big badges and passes, but they are so thrilled to see a left tire change from Ronnie Coates, who gets out with a 16-second stop, so it doesn't seem like any loss there, and he will be still the leading car to have pitted. It's going to be close between him and Coimbra, which is, of course, the battle to watch. Coimbra's a little bit further back, but at speed, and his left side tires are also warm, so there's Coates in the exit, and Coimbra is going to be right on him, I think. Yep, absolutely he is.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see if those left side tires are going to pay off here. How long does it take him to get warmed up?
And another really good lap out of Coimbra as well, pretty much matching what he'd done the previous time. So he's flying. He's in a vein of good form, and he's going to catch a driver who's just put a little bit more weight in the car, maybe a little bit of a side-to-side imbalance as far as the tires go. If I was Coimbra, I'd go for a lunge right away, but he's more patient a man than I.
Yeah, that would have been pretty ambitious, all things considered, and he's getting a little bit of a block here from Lee Martin, who's diving out of the way as well. But still, lots of pressure on Ronnie Coates, and we're seeing Coates drifting through the corner there.
So you do get a tow and a slipstream on the back straight in these cars. Anywhere you full throttle for more than about 5 seconds seems to be how it works in these cars, but he's still behind as they get to the final part of the lap. 15 minutes left to go. I'm not seeing many more pit stops out of anyone else here. How's the drive off the final corner for Coimbra? That is so critical as far as making a pass on this track. Turn 1 is still your best opportunity, and is maybe 1 car length too far back. And I guess a lot can happen. You get to the part where the track straightens out, you're looking down towards turn number 1, and if you're close here, you're thinking about it, but he is still too far back.
Yeah, it's a tough move to make, all things considered, so we'll see if he has a little something for him on the next lap. Going down into turn 1. A few drivers out there right now. Brian Schabelsky is going to try and make a move, but Henri Lombardi, but it looks like those two will stay in line. Got a good vantage point here. Battles up and down the field, though.
Yeah, for sure. And we think there'll be more once they pit, because that split in the field is holding them apart somewhat. Chris Brunema pits. I wonder if any of his teammates will follow him. Well, his teammate James Hansen doesn't. So Hansen stays out, but Brunema will pit. Eugenio Polici will pit. He's had just a tiny bit of damage on the left side of the car for a long time. So he'll probably be thankful to tidy all of that up for the final run to the flag.
Now we got Polici, Brunner gets away with a pretty blazing fast stop there. That's only the second 14-second stop we've seen into this race.
Yep, sure is quick. So he might be ahead of Coates and Coimbra. For Polici, a little more textbook as those other drivers shoot past on the pit straight.
This will be
about 2 seconds ahead of Coates at the moment.
I was going to say, this is going to be a bit of a litmus test, all things considered, once we see how the fuel goes into all these cars.
Now, Polici resumes. Tom Aithon not far behind him as well. So as far as the open class goes, there's a chance here. Quite a strong one for Tom Aithon. The race leader to pit lane, Joshua Soto, is in. Are we going to see everyone else follow him from here? Doesn't need to be a lightning stop. It just needs to be good enough and near enough for Joshua Soto, who was having a 10-second lead or so before they all started pitting. And as the pole sitter, he's right by pit exit as well. And he decides for the final 12 minutes, he wants at least one left side tyre. Not sure you're quite going to get the return on that investment, but the rest of them do follow in. Hansen, Hibbert, Gilliland, Gonzalez, and if Andy Cossack pits, that'll be everyone.
Yeah, Cossack.
He doesn't. He refuses steadfastly.
He wants to get some points there for maybe leading a lap if he's lucky, but unfortunately for him, I think Soto's already going to exit the pits and beat him back around to the line.
I love how inside of the pit lane, they've still left up the street sign, no stopping, no parking at any time. I think you can get away with it if you're in a race car. And then I think the no U-turn signs also can get waived. Almost everyone, bar Andy Cossack, now through the pit lane. The race lead for Joshua Soto, 7 seconds over Chris Brunema from his very, very quick stop. Brunema ahead of Ronnie Coates and Rui Coimbra, now still battling over third and fourth.
Yeah, interestingly, Coates and Coimbra have made up some ground, though. Only about 2 seconds.
You know, Coimbra had a good stop and some very, very good outlaps as well. And James Hansen, therefore, will be fifth outright. Still waiting on where Andy Cossack's pit stop puts him as far as the open class is concerned. But Tom Athon, despite that early pit stop with some damage, has cycled back to the lead of that class. What looks to be ahead of Jose Gonzalez and Andrew Gilliland.
We'll see. Cossack comes by this time. Will he have the fuel? He's kind of slow out of the last chicane, last hairpin rather.
Oh, and there's a little bit of a check up there with Charles Vaccaro as well for Chris Brunema, who is not going to appreciate that because he's trying desperately to stay ahead of Ronnie Coates through Coimbra, and it's checked up his run off the final corner. Vaccaro has gone in hot, tagged the wall, and then was maybe unaware he was door-to-door with someone else. Got to check your mirrors and your blind spots before you change lanes. Back to the live pictures, Brunema holds on to his second place, but it's erased some of his lead to Ronnie Coates, who smells blood in the water.
It's a close call there for Ronnie Coates on the entry.
Sure was. This is the time to hang it all out. Now, Rui Coimbra's got to get through the traffic as well. He looked so hot just a couple of laps ago, and it's tailed off somewhat as other drivers have maybe dialed up the intensity somewhat. Rui Coimbra will get past. All pit stops done. Your race leader with a 7-second lead might be heading towards the biggest winning margin all season with that. But for second, third, and fourth, anything could happen in this final 10 minutes.
I just heard a bang from across the track, and it was Ken Copeland bouncing off the tires on the exit to turn number 1. So he'll carry on with a little bit of a bent steering rack, I got to say, but 12th place carrying on.
Chris Brunema wider on the exit there than you see most drivers dare to go, so he's trying to break this gap to Ronnie Coates to make himself less vulnerable on the pit straight.
Nicely executed through the hairpin that time. That was a really clean diamond-shaped exit off that corner, and it's going to gain him a little bit on the straight this time. Coates, on the other hand, was outside of the curbing, not just outside of the apex that time.
Weird little hairpin that final corner. Sometimes it seems if you sort of stay one car width away from the wall on the middle, you can get more speed on that sort of high line. So, but not quite the line you want to take if someone's right at your bumper, lest they think about having a look down the inside. So one of those lines where the corners where the qualifying line might be a little different from the racing line and the pack racing line.
Yeah, and this battle for the second, third places on the podium is starting to heat up. We got, what is it, about a second going from second to fourth place here as these three all come around into the fifth corner.
You almost wish that either get rid of the curbing or put a proper one in there, because it gets no respect coming onto the back straight. The drivers all jump to the inside of it, and there's no penalty, no enforcement.
Boys have it. That's the mantra of that one series that we don't talk about, right?
Ronnie Coates tries to carry a bit too much speed into the hairpin, and he washes out, has to get out of the throttle, checks up his run off the corner, lets Brunema start to get away, and lets Rui Coimbra get just a little bit closer, assuming Coimbra has the fuel to push. He pitted a little on the earlier side. He ran all on his lonesome for a couple of those laps, and they were very hot laps where he was clearly not saving because he was banging in some very, very good lap times.
Gotta think that he's currently the favorite. Currently doing fine on fuel, rather, with the 10-lap stop. We're starting to see what looks to be a bit like a classic Long Beach race. Drivers not only daring themselves, but daring the guys around them to try and take more risks to make up some ground. As we tick down 5 minutes to go, it's really a question of who's going to blink first.
A couple of other battles elsewhere. Ken Copeland, I think, got past Jose Gonzalez. They're not in the same class, but Copeland, after the long stop, and then, like you pointed out, having just a little bit of wall contact, trying to come back through the field, and his position doesn't quite match his race pace, so he will maybe close in on Brian Zabelski and Ray Lombardi in front of him as well, and those two are having a little battle. So sort of that'd be 9th, 10th, 11th outright, 8th, 9th, 10th in class, because Tom Ayton is just ahead of them.
Yeah, and you got to imagine that Copeland is feeling the pressure to have a top 10 performance, at least after picking this track.
Spalski had a little bit of a drift. Behind him, Lombardi tried to take the wide entry, late apex, early throttle line. And Ken Copeland still not too far back behind off them. You see all four sweeping their way along beside the bay.
Where the watermelons grow.
You know, I'm not familiar with the reference, Devon, but I'm sure it was real funny.
Oh, we were just singing songs. Oh, what a bit of a moment there for Zabelski as he exits the first turn. Ray Lombardi has to take evasive action, and now this pack is all checked up. Looks like Lombardi's given up some time now. Ken Copeland's going to have an opportunity here into 4, and which one of them's going to make the mistake?
Zabelski definitely struggling for rear grip in multiple places. Now, Lombardi gets out a little bit wide, and Ken Copeland might smell an opportunity. No defense offered just yet from Lombardi.
Really clean entries from both of them, but again, that lack of grip from Copeland ahead.
Real squeeze up against the wall. All three close in. Zabelski's leading them down the back straight. Lombardi in that difficult position where you think, do I move across to defend the guy behind me? But if I do, I'm pulling out of the slipstream of the guy in front. Does that leave me more protected or more vulnerable? He's in a difficult position in the middle of the sandwich here, trying to set up a good line off the corner to attack Zabelski, but therefore coming under threat from Ken Copeland behind. All slow to a very, very slow crawl through the hairpin, and Copeland trying to maximize that exit just gets a little scratch up against the wall. Zabelski off the final corner well this time. I think it's Lombardi in the most precarious position here.
Yeah, Lombardi's doing everything he can to hold on right now. He's trying to stay in that draft with Zabelski ahead. Copeland lining him up, and they both break real late, closing up that gap, and they're going to be right on Zabelski through the fountain turn here. And it looks like Lombardi's just kind of missing some apexes right now. He's feeling the pressure ahead and behind and struggling a bit to keep that thing going as fast as it could be.
It obviously can get a little bit scruffy when you're trying to push 10 tenths, but you're right up behind another driver, taking away some of your vision of the apexes, the braking markers, some of your other little reference points around the track.
Big drum up at the front. That was Chris Bernemer in second place, clearing some lap traffic in the form of Odyssey Adams coming out of the last turn, and he gets tagged on the rear bumper, costing him tons of momentum, and that's going to give a big run to the likes of Ronnie Coates, who's now coming up the inside on Shoreline Drive, and we don't know if Chris Bernemer's car is going to be able to turn in here. They're too wide. Bernemer's defending up the inside, and he manages to hold the corner. And it looked like Odyssey Adams just kind of spun up the tires maybe and just tagged him. That battle for second just got a whole lot tighter though.
Yeah, absolutely. It set Chris Bernemer back, and a late race surprise he didn't want. It's 2 laps to go with the time left on the clock, and it reinvigorates Ronnie Coates and Rui Coimbra and brings the battle for the final spots on the podium alive. The battle further back in the field is alive. Lombardi still needing to defend from Ken Copeland, who can't get around the outside of turn 1, can cross back over under, too wide in the fountain section late on in the race. Ken Copeland demanding real estate in this economy, but he gets around the outside, racing that you hardly ever see not end in tears at Long Beach. An amazing move from Ken Copeland.
Yeah, a lot of respect between the two drivers to make that one happen, and a solid move results. And our leading pack here, or our second, third, fourth place pack, is going to be coming to the line for the white flag.
Yeah, really touch and go. About 1:35 left on the clock when Joshua Soto crossed the line. I won't believe it until I see Barney waving a white flag. I have a static cam of that one. He is. Okay, it was touch and go one way or the other. Joshua Soto, the race leader, has started the final lap, now with a 9-second lead over this group here, where the blowtorch is on second place, Chris Bernemer. He takes a defensive line in towards turn number 1. Gives Ronnie Coates a good exit off of turn number 1. But these guys aren't brave enough to try to pass through the fountain and the backside of the circuit, but it keeps Coates and Coimbra in play, and one mistake could decide it all.
Through that dangerous corner at turn number 4, where we've seen plenty of tears.
Hansen 10 seconds off the back of this in 5th place. Not really in play. Eugenio Polici 6th, not really in play. Tom Athon's gotten past Camden Hibbett, 7th and 8th. So I wonder if Hibbett's maybe got some fuel dramas or some other dramas going on. But we're coming to the checkered flag on the final lap. Bernemer only a couple more corners to try to hold off Coates and Coimbra. Soto only a couple more corners for another race win in Spec-5 World Tour. Shortly, Barney will put away the white flag, bring out the checker. It'll be for Joshua Soto as the race winner, but for second, third, and fourth, there's no chance to make a move as Bernemer leads them out of the final corner. Joshua Soto is very, very pleased with his work on the Long Beach street circuit to take the win. Joining him on the podium will be Chris Bernemer, Ronnie Coates, Rui Coimbra in 4th.
James Hansen's going to be coming down this pit straight to take 5th, and 6th will go to Eugenio Polici, assuming he could do the same. But Camden Hibbett and Tom Athon have been going at it through the last few corners. Aton was leading at the stripe last time, but Camden managed to make a move going into turn number 1, really dived it up the inside and took that spot away. In the meantime, Brian Schabelsky and Ken Copeland were minding their own business when Ray Lombardi tried to shove it up the inside of Ken Copeland, overcooking himself into turn number 1 and letting Jose Gonzalez go by and take a position away. So a few dramatic moments on that last lap.
Never boring on the streets of Long Beach. A super, super difficult challenge. Many drivers finding the wall, but Joshua Soto standing head and shoulders above the rest, taking a race win from Chris Bernemer, Ronnie Coates, Rui Coimbra, James Hansen, Eugenio Polici, Camden Hibbett in 7th, and Tom Athon, the open class winner in 8th from Brian Zabelski, Ken Copeland, Jose Gonzalez. Good result from him, and I'm sure an interesting race for second in class. Ray Lombardi, Andrew Gilliland 3rd in open from Andy Kosick, Paulo Coimbra, Lee Martin. Did he keep that race clean? We didn't see a whole lot of him, so the answer is probably yes. And then Sean Hayes, Odyssey Adams Jr., Charles Vaccaro, Pierre Robertsai as the top 10. Leaders completing 28 laps. Robert Tsai and Geordie Fike completing 8 and 7, so call that retirements, I think. Likewise, Trevor Roy, Curtis Jones, and Michael Coates.
I'm searching and searching around. We'll have to see if we can find any of these winning drivers out there today. Soto making a rare appearance on the top of the podium, and Tom showing his usual form. We'll see if either of them's available for an interview today.
Yeah, hopefully they'll come swing by in a second. We know what both of them sound like.
In the meantime, we can just say a big thank you to that sponsor of ours, Aussie Sales and Aussie Sales. Go to AussieSales.com for all that is Porsche. Aussie has thousands of parts available for virtually any Porsche model, providing high-quality service with a personal approach. And with worldwide shipping available, you won't need to go anywhere else. Visit AussieSales.com today.
And our race leader will join us. It's the winner on the streets of Long Beach. Our congratulations go to Josh Soto.
Thank you.
You come away with probably one of the biggest wins as far as the stopwatch is concerned this season, but not without a few little hair-raising moments, a couple of which we spotted.
Yeah. This track is well, pretty much any city track or things with like barriers and stuff. It's really hard to minimize the mistakes. It's very easy to catch a barrier or get some understeer. So yeah, that was the main game plan. Just try to minimize as many mistakes and try to maximize lap times.
The super toasty track temperature playing into that at all. We saw a couple of drivers where it certainly looked like the rear tires were going off for them.
Oh yeah. There was an occasional oversteer, especially in the first like 3 laps or so. It took a while, especially in qualifying. But yeah, this track was like really hot. And it was causing like a lot of oversteer in certain turns.
Well, maybe the least draft dependent track I think we've seen all season long, and definitely in the early laps looked like you were maybe trying to put that 1 second in. Did you approach the race with a strategy like that, or just feel it out as it goes?
Yeah, it was mostly just filling it out as it goes. Trying to see if I could possibly pull away from the draft. Because on the straights, this track is very has a lot of draft. But I was just trying to maintain a high pace, and then towards the end, just try to conserve as much as possible. Try to stay out the wall.
Well, it certainly worked out and paid off. I nearly got those the wrong way around, but well done. And anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah. I'd like to thank you guys. The broadcasters, Devin Haynes, Peters, and Michael Derby, and I also like to thank the league and everybody that supports it.
Awesome. Catch you around.
All right. Thank you.
So Joshua Soto leaves us, and Devin Peters grabs the Open Class winner.
Yeah, I've gone and found not just the Open Class winner, but the 5 consecutive race winner, Tom Aton.
Yeah, hard to believe, isn't it?
Well, I figure with a hot track like it was out there today, you were squirming all over the place and feeling right in your element.
No, not at all. I don't really like this track, and I have to apologize to Ken and Sean for getting in incidents with them. But I did manage to not hit the wall on my own for the whole race. But I didn't qualify well at all. And our practice race last night was really bad, and I gained a bunch of spots on the big crash on the start, and I kind of did the same thing tonight, and it just worked out. But I can't believe I thought my teammate Jose would definitely beat me. He was had a lot better pace in hot laps and qualifying, but it all worked out.
As we were saying on the broadcast, to finish first you must finish. And Jose, he had some pace on you, but it looked like you had some real consistency out there today.
Well, yeah, Andrew was in front of me when I lost. I had no nose on the car, and I went in the pits and got the car fixed, got some tires and fuel, and I was watching the lap times, and I think I was beating him about a half a second a lap when we were apart. And so when he pitted, I ended up pretty far in front of him, so it all worked out.
I was doing some fuel math on the napkins over here, and by the looks of things, I thought you pitted a lap early. Did you have to do any fuel save out there today?
No, not at all. In fact, I didn't know when the pit opened, so one of my teammates, Ronnie, told me how much fuel I needed when I pitted, and I actually stopped the fuel. I only needed about 1.8, and I hit the stop button. I'm not sure how close I was to a full tank. I didn't even look.
I like it very much. Well, the team effort and a consistent drive gives you another pip on the belt, another win on the series. Do you think anyone can challenge you at this point?
Yeah, well, my teammates, they might challenge me for the win, but I got a pretty good lead on the points, so probably not. I think I'll be graduating into the pro class.
Well, congratulations on another great race. Anyone you need to shout out today?
Well, of course, my teammates and Jose. Jose sets up our practices and gets us all online to work on our laps, and of course the admin for a great league, and you guys for a really nice broadcast. I always watch it the next morning, and it's always good.
Cheers to you.
All right, thanks.
Well, that's a great Saturday morning, Friday morning ritual then for him. A little bit of HJBC, and make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, because we'll be bringing you more great racing action throughout the rest of the year, including next week at, oh my gosh, I just read it and it slipped my mind. Is it Road America? It's Road America. Good. I read it a second ago. I looked away from it. Straight out of my head. Joshua Soto, the race winner, though, from Long Beach. Congratulations to him and Tom Athon that we just spoke to. Devin, any closing thoughts from the streets of Long Beach? I don't think we can go anywhere more different than Road America. A lot more real estate there, a lot longer straights, a lot more slipstreaming.
Still plenty of consequences to be had, though, when you get it wrong. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys slipstreaming through the kink, and we'll see which driver has the necessary speed to win in what is becoming an increasingly close points championship at the top of the pro class next week.
Anything could happen, and you'll see it here on HJBC next week from Road America in the Spec-5 World Tour, with thanks to RC Sales, Porsche Parts. From David Haynes, Devin Peters, Michael Derby, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you in a week's time.